Typically, when I receive an ECM for cloning, I just clone it, ship it back, and that's it, right? You wanted the clone, you get the clone. But whenever I see a Impreza with VVT, these two chips tell you that this is a VVT version. I always call the customer or text or whatever to ask what the issues are, because sometimes people have a VVT related issues, and sometimes it's, you swap the engine and the engine is reporting, codes AP0017, 18, all the way to, I don't remember, like 22, 24, which is essentially interpreted as a timing issue, but it's because the ECM has the VVT values burnt in, essentially. So when I clone it, those values are transferred to the new ECM. Which means if your issue was related to VVT, if the ECM replacement is not going to resolve that issue, and you don't need to replace the ECM to resolve that. You can send it in, and I'll get you the cleaning service, right? Essentially, the VVT values will go back to 0, so the ECM will interpret that as a new engine, essentially new setup. So it will essentially learn the new engine. So that's what I did with this one. And I wasn't going to make a video on it because, there's nothing interesting about cloning. But the customer described a very interesting issue. Let me pull up the message here. Something is shorting out one of the drivers, or at least I think. This is the third time it happened. Every year it gets a throttle body code and it goes into limp mode. I get the ECU cloned and installed, and everything is good. So essentially every year, roughly, this issue comes back, and it is resolved with the replacement ECM. So I decided to poke around. So the customer set the throttle body, right? Throttle body is controlled by this chip, right? It's a regular H driver. You can get it off the shelf. It's not a specialized Denso chip like these, right? It's a regular chip you can essentially buy. They're not cheap, but there are ways to obtain those at a much better price. This chip seems fine, and usually if there is a problem with the throttle body controller, the car won't even get into a limp mode. It most likely it won't even start, or it'll start and choke, or there's essentially not going to be any throttle control under the throttle pedal, right? So the engine is not going to be revving. It might idle, but you won't be able to essentially drive it. So yeah, it kind of will behave like it's in limp mode. So without seeing any issues over here, I started poking around in the VVT area, and this chip is shorted. This one is fine, but this one is shorted. It's the first time I see this. So now I was thinking, what exactly is happening here? Now this could be a coincidence, but this looks to me, so this is the shorted one, this is the good one. Can you see slight difference in conformal coding? You see that this part of the chip seemed to have suffered a little more heat than this side, right? So the conformal coding just kind of started escaping. This could be a coincidence because sometimes this conformal coding just kind of looks like that. So it's not very reliable, but it falls into place along with the other pieces of this puzzle. If this chip runs hot, then over time it will short out due to essentially heat, right? Nothing else. Which means if the chip is heating up, there's too much load on the other side. So now, how does it work? These drivers, it's a regular H driver, so essentially it's built in a way so we can pass the current through the load in two directions. Now, most likely it uses pulse width modulation, the duty cycle, not just direct current, but the principle is the same. You want to push the current in one direction to turn the motor in one direction, and then push the current in the other direction to turn the motor in the other direction. Now those motors, they essentially change the angles of the camshafts, and that is in the effort of finding the best, the optimum position for them, right? And during the when you drive, those motors will turn slightly depending on what the needs are, right? So they will adjust differently on the highway, differently in the city, or when you're speeding up, slowing down, and stuff like that. Now this is both to improve the performance of the engine, but also improve the gas mileage and stuff like that. Now I see two possibilities, at least the ones that are that I can think of. Number one, the motor itself, it's a regular, people call it stepper motor, but it's not a stepper motor because we're using the H driver, not the stepper motor driver. But they kind of look like steppers, so mechanics usually refer to them as steppers. In that motor, we have windings, right? And essentially, once we push the current through the windings, the motor turns. Now, if the motor itself has been overheated, the coils, the windings, could be partially shorted. By partially, we mean that, say, they are supposed to have, say, 12 ohms, maybe 20 ohms, maybe probably a lot lower than that. But let's say it's 20 ohms. And the winding got partially shorted, so now it is 10 ohms. If we have 10 ohms instead of 20 ohms, essentially we essentially doubled the power that the motor is going to take. Now I'm not sure if the current goes through those windings continuously to keep it like in the stepper motor, or it just works when it needs to do the adjustment, right? So it just the load is applied just for a couple seconds for the motors to turn, and we're done, right? Regardless, we have more load, we just push more current than it is designed to work with, right? So in which case, this would be perfectly normal if this was a chip that has a heatsink on it, right? Then we can push twice as much, 3 times, or even few times as much current as we can when the chip is bare like this, because all that heat that will dissipate on the chip will be removed by the heatsink. In this case, the only heatsink is the board itself. This is not enough to just instantly kill the chip, but since the chip is overheating, it makes sense that after a while it just gives out. Second possibility that I could think of is the actual mechanics on the motor. So the motor is fine, the windings are fine, but there's extra resistance on one side, right? One motor that this chip controls is just, it has too much resistance. I mean physical resistance, too much friction, essentially, right? The kinetic energy that the motor needs to break, needs to work against, is proportional to the current being pushed through it, or the current is proportional to essentially to the torque. We can think of it from both ways. So if we have extra friction, we need extra current to push it, which again causes the chip to overheat over time, and or to overheat, essentially constantly being overheating, constantly overheating, and eventually it gives up and it shorts or shorts out. So that's what I think is happening over here. So obviously I'm gonna clone this one and ship it back, and yeah, I'm sure the car is gonna work for another year. But if you don't want to have to do it every year, I mean, I don't know how much of an effort it is to diagnose that and to resolve that. It kind of depends on the engine. If it's 2.0 turbo or 2.5, maybe 2.5 naturally aspirated, although this is Impreza, this is probably not naturally aspirated. 2.5. It could be 3 liters or above. Those would be naturally aspirated, but then we probably wouldn't see VVT on these. I don't think I've ever seen the VVT version with a over 3-liter displacement, but maybe there are versions like that. But if it's 2.0 or 2.5, those engines are relatively small, so the access to the VVT should be relatively easy. So what I would do, I would just remove the entire VVT assembly and see on the other side. You can probably even apply some current over there to see how it turns. And one of those is gonna be noticeably more difficult to turn, if I'm correct about this, which means either rebuild it, or perhaps, well, it still could be a motor issue, the actual motor that turns it, or mechanical issue, or maybe there's something in there, maybe something broke loose, and you know, or some chips of something got stuck in there, and that causes too much friction. It is possible, but that's what I would recommend instead of doing this every year. But if you want to do it every year, no problem. In fact, I can do it every week if you want. But again, to save you some money on these, I recommend just looking into VVT. And I figured, since it's such an unusual case, I figured I'll make a video on it, because usually there's a lot of misconceptions around VVT, and it's nothing new. The VVT has been around for many years. It's just on Subis, especially on well, let's call them sports cars. They usually have VVT, and it is controlled by the ECM. And if you do an engine swap, you also need to reset those values, so the ECM learns the new engine. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys very much for joining me today. I do appreciate you, and I shall see you guys in the next one.